Well, hello there. So happy to be back this week. Oh my goodness. Wow. I don't know about you, but this December seems to be flying by. It is going fast. And as I was walking the dog around the neighborhood today, I realized, wow, everybody's gotten a jump on their lights, and I just took the pumpkins down. Okay, so I'm just being real. And it's okay, right? We're getting there. However, I am getting inspired to start kind of decorating. We celebrate Christmas, so, getting in the spirit for sure. All right, my friends, so I have a great episode for you today. I'm really excited about it, okay? This is a long time coming, and I honestly really like to trial things myself first before I speak on them. Okay, so that's why I went ahead and I started some creatine, probably about 4 or 5 weeks ago. Okay, so it's not been that long. And what I think will be really powerful for us to dive into today is, as a woman, do you need to supplement with creatine? Okay, now we typically think of creatine being consumed by men. Okay, and now we're hearing a lot more about women taking creatine. So we're going to dive into it today. By the end of the episode, I hope that you have some clarity on what the recommendations are, how potentially creatine may help you, and then how I'm using it myself, along with how I'm recommending it to my clients. Okay, so we're gonna dive in, and first I have to tell you, we are enrolling Transform 9.0. So 9.0 means that this is our 9th season. Yes, so we have fine-tuned the program. Also, we've extended the program. So the program is no longer 6 months, it's 12 months. Okay, now we didn't change the price, but we changed the amount of months. Okay, so same price that would have been 6 months is now 12 months. And we did that because what we're finding is that people just really need more time and more support. So we're delivering on that. A really cool feature that I've added, and actually the enrollees don't even really know about this yet, I've actually added a meal prep plan to Transform 9.0. One of the things that has become pretty apparent is that, many of us just get really overwhelmed with what to prep, right? What to prep, what to eat. And so I'm coming up with a really, really cool challenge. It's a 52-week dinner meal prep challenge, and it is really baseline minimum. So anyone can do it. We have a full 52 weeks of regular and a full 52 weeks of vegetarian, and I cannot wait. I think that is going to be literally a game changer this year. So go ahead, check it out. You can see the link in the show notes. You're checking out Transform, 72 CME credits, incredible community. Love it. Okay, so let's dive in. I'm so excited. So here's the reason why I started really looking at creatine. I'm going to tell you a story. So in my groups, one of the things that we do is we follow in-body scans. Okay, so our members can submit their in-bodies and we can evaluate them. And through the evaluation, we can, again, have the discussion with them. What are your current goals? Okay, let's see what the progress is happening. Is your progress, adequate? Do we need to make any changes to your nutrition, right? And this goes both ways because let's say somebody is losing muscle mass. Well, we're going to know by the in-body scan, okay? So it's really useful in all the ways you can imagine. And what I've found is that the in-body scan or the at-home in-body helps women and men to really appreciate their bodies a bit more. So one of the stories that I've been talking a lot about is we use the in-body on my 12-year-old, and we do it because we want her to have a positive relationship with the scale, and she has a lot of muscle mass. And so we've really focused on that, and that's really helped her to have good body confidence, okay? So let me go back to why, okay, I digress. Let me go back to why I became interested in creatine. I've heard about it for so long. And yes, there's a lot of people talking about it, but that's not what caught my attention. Now, I've been an athlete my whole life, okay? The only supplements I've taken, protein powders, things like that, never have taken creatine. And I'll be honest with you, because of my weight struggle, I wanted nothing to do with creatine because I heard, you hear the rumors, you just gain a lot of weight with creatine. Now, what we know is that creatine is actually going to potentially help you retain water in your muscle. And there could potentially be some bloating with the monohydrate version. We're going to talk about that. So yes, your weight may go up, but creatine does not make you gain body fat. Okay? However, if you are living in diet culture like I was back in the day when I was training my heaviest, I can't even imagine if I took creatine when I was training my heaviest, I was at a heavier weight and I had higher testosterone levels. I can't even imagine what I could have accomplished then. Okay, now, testosterone levels are dwindling, right? I'm definitely not training at the peak of my training and I'm a lighter weight. So it's harder for me to actually gain muscle mass right now. Actually, the higher your body fat percentage, the easier it is to gain muscle mass. The lower your body fat percentage gets, it gets a little bit harder. Okay, so as I was reviewing an InBody one day of a woman who lost 50 to 60 pounds, okay, and she didn't lose any muscle mass. In fact, she gained significant muscle mass. Okay, not only that, she was pulling numbers on her InBody that were completely not in the average range. Okay, I'm talking high muscle mass, low body fat. Not dangerously low, but low compared to what I typically see for a woman in perimenopause, right, who's on a weight loss journey. Okay, and it really caught my eye. Okay, because her InBody looked like if she wanted to compete in a fitness competition, she was on her way. Okay. So it perked me up. I'm like, this is interesting. She's lost significant weight. She's gained significant muscle. What is going on? So I reached out to her and I said, listen, looked at your InBody. Wow. I hope you're celebrating. This is incredible. Do you want to give the group any tips just because your results are pretty dynamic? And she did. She came in. She's like, so this, and this. So she's doing all the things that you would expect, like hitting the nutrition. She is a beast in the weight room. So she is like lifting, amazingly. She's super consistent. She's an athlete, but she was using creatine. And I was like, interesting. And it really perked my ears up because I have women that are complete beasts in the gym and they're, consistent with their strength training, consistent with their nutrition. And I have not seen muscle mass gain like that and body fat loss like that. I have not seen a body recomp like that. And so it really I got interested. And so she said, yeah, I've been taking creatine. I'm like, okay, I'm in. That's all I needed to see. I was like, okay, let me go ahead and do a little research on my own and I want to trial it out. And so I did my research. Now, here's what I'll tell you, because we're going to talk about creatine monohydrate. Creatine monohydrate is the most studied form of creatine, okay? Creatine HCL is another form of creatine. It's effective. In fact, some experts will tell you that it has better bioavailability. Some experts will tell you that that's crap, so who knows? But the deal is this: if you have a sensitive stomach, the creatine HCL may be the way to go. Creatine HCL has also been known to have less bloating. Okay, so I have a sensitive stomach, so anytime something may be a little bit more gentle on the GI system, I'm going for that. Okay, but I knew that I was interested in one of them. Okay, and so you're probably wondering, how does creatine work? Like, what's the whole deal? So we get creatine in our diets. We, as non-vegetarians, will get more creatine than a vegetarian. So if you ask the question, will it benefit a vegetarian more to take creatine? It may actually, okay, because creatine tends to be lower in vegetarians. And the idea is that our muscle uses it, right, to make ATP, the energy of our muscle. Okay, so think about it this way. If you have ample stores of creatine, okay, phosphocreatine is what it's stored in your muscle as. If we have adequate stores, we're going to produce as much ATP as possible, which means we're going to be more effective with exercise and we're going to also have better recovery. So what does that mean then? Well, you have a better chance at building muscle then. If you're able to work the muscle harder because it has more energy in it, and then you're also able to recover it easier, you're going to gain muscle. Okay, so right there, all right, so I did the research, looked at the science, grabbed myself some creatine HCL. I am not opposed to taking monohydrate for myself. Again, it was my first rodeo with creatine, so I figured I'd try it. So let's talk a little bit about the differences in the dosing, okay? So creatine monohydrate is typically recommended at the 3 to 5 gram per day dosing. Creatine HCL is recommended at the 1 to 2 gram per day dosing. Okay, now you can take it in powder form, you can take it in gummies, equally effective. The difference is for monohydrate, sometimes loading is recommended. So a load would be about 20 grams of creatine divided by 4 in one day, right? So you figure 5 grams 4 times a day for 5 to 7 days would be a load. And the idea is that it's going to saturate your muscles quicker, and then you would go to your maintenance dose. Now, this is just with monohydrate. In fact, there's actually not a loading dose recommended for HCL. The other thing I will tell you is that it is optional. You actually do not have to load creatine, okay? The key is consistency. So you don't necessarily have to really load it. And if you are concerned with that water weight gain with the monohydrate, okay, and more bloating, yeah, you're probably not going to load. All right. So I'll tell you this. I have clients who are taking creatine monohydrate who are taking it at the 1 gram per day dosing, even lower, okay, and seeing results. Okay. So again, 2 forms. I grabbed the HCL for me. I was doing 1 gram per day. All right. And what did I notice? So if you look at the studies of what creatine can do for you, in the first 1 to 4 weeks, typically you're going to see better workouts and better recovery, okay? By the 4 to 6 week mark, you may start to see changes in body composition. Not super significant, but you may start to see maybe a little bit of muscle gain, maybe. And in general, right, this is going to, take time for this to happen, okay? So I've probably been doing the creatine, I would say now for almost 5 weeks consistently. I've been doing the gummies, the HCL gummies. And I'm actually a little over 1 gram now. And what I'll tell you is my recovery is for sure better, for sure, okay? I have not gained muscle mass, okay? But I don't expect that I would have at this point, quite honestly. Because here's why, and I'm gonna tell you the next important point. You can take all the creatine you want, but if you're not eating a nutrition strategy that's conducive to your goals, you're not gaining muscle mass. Okay, I'm not eating enough protein to gain muscle right now. I'm eating enough to maintain muscle, but I'm not eating enough to gain muscle, okay? I am 99.9% convinced that if I were eating in a little bit of a surplus and taking my creatine, I would definitely be gaining a little bit of muscle easily. Now, here's the thing. We are all unique. I also know that over the years, my testosterone levels have decreased, okay? I actually had pretty good high ones, okay? Thank you, PCOS, but I did. And over the years, it's gotten lower, and I can feel that with energy for sure. But what I'll say with that is that also is gonna make a difference in my ability to gain muscle right now. Okay, so those of you out there who have the advantage of having really solid testosterone levels right now, use it, get in the gym, get yourself some creatine, eat some protein, okay? Take advantage. And one of the ways I talk to my daughter, my 12-year-old, I say, listen, your optimal time to gain muscle is between now and before you're 30. This is the best opportunity that you're going to gain muscle mass, right? I'm talking to her way differently, and she hears it. Okay. So again, she's not on a strength training program yet. We've been playing around with, 10-minute sessions. So she does 10-minute sessions here and there. She does basketball and field hockey and typical sports, but we're getting there. Right? She's literally 5'8" at 12. She's not at her adult height yet. I think she'll be about 5'10", 5'11", but we're really focusing on the body comp, the muscle right now. Again, we are creating a body positivity. We are not worried about what she weighs. We are really focusing on how her body feels and what it can do. Okay. So with all of that being said, I feel really good. Okay, my recovery is better. Will I maintain muscle easier with it? I think I may. So I can pretty much use creatine at this point for my muscle maintenance strategy, and for others, if they're willing to eat in more of a surplus, I believe even in perimenopause, muscle gain is absolutely possible. That combined with strategic strength training and strategic nutrition, definitely. Okay. But this is not all creatine is good for, okay? There are way more studies showing the benefits of creatine. So for the purposes right now, please know that creatine monohydrate is the one that has been most studied. So all the things I'm going to tell you, essentially what we say is that HCL and monohydrate are both effective forms of creatine, but I just want to put it out there that most of the studies have been done on monohydrate. Okay, so with that being said, cognition. Creatine also helps the brain. Okay, so it generates energy in the brain. And I will tell you, I mean, I definitely have had a little more clarity, less brain fog. So one of the things, and I'm going to talk about perimenopause separately just so I can keep it in order. One of the things that creatine is supposed to help with is brain fog in perimenopause and menopause. Okay, but in terms of protecting your cognition, okay, creatine is going to absolutely be effective with that. I mean, who doesn't need that, right? Okay, so far we got muscle mass, we got cognition. Let's go to bone health. Okay, so creatine has been shown to improve your bone, so the strength of your bones. Okay, as women, we know that as estrogen declines, we're up against a big battle here. Anything we can do to preserve that bone mass, we're going to be all in on. Okay, so creatine is going to help with that. All right, so those are, three really big things right there: muscle, bone, cognition. Okay, so in terms of hormone regulation, let's just say, okay, so in terms of creatine and hormone regulation, you could go into specifics on what that may do. And the one thing that I'll say is that if creatine can help you gain more skeletal muscle mass, okay, remember, the more skeletal muscle mass you have, the active, healthy skeletal muscle mass, the more insulin sensitive you're going to be. Okay, so this is going to be a great hormonal boost by helping really create quality muscle. Okay, so creatine will then help with hormone regulation. And I like to talk about, insulin, we'll throw leptin in there most likely, right? Because the more muscle you have, that's going to, again, help with that. So decreasing metabolic syndrome, potentially, right? It could aid in that because of its ability to increase muscle mass, which is going to then improve insulin sensitivity. Okay, so those are some of the other things to consider when you're thinking about creatine. The other thing I want to tell you, so monohydrate is cheap. It's well studied and it's cheap. So it's easy to recommend that. In terms of long-term use in a healthy person, not a problem at all, okay, from all the research. In terms of, a lot of women will say to me, well, I'm really worried about what it'll do to my kidneys. In general, if you have a healthy functioning kidney, right, it's gonna do what it needs to do to take care of whatever load there is that needs to leave your body, okay? So in general, safe long-term. And the other things to think about, the cost. So creatine monohydrate, as I mentioned, is cheap. HCL, it's pricier. Like if you look and go look at a nutrition store or even Amazon, for example, you'll see that it is more expensive. Now, it's being marketed as higher absorption rate, okay, or higher bioavailability. I've seen that in a couple places, right? And you know what? The verdict is out on there. I can't tell you yay or nay on that, but what I can tell you is I do have a sensitive stomach. I have had zero issues, zero bloating, zero water retention with the HCL. Okay, I probably will try monohydrate next to really compare it, but I'm not there yet. I really like what I'm taking, so I'm just gonna kind of stick with that for now. Let's move into perimenopause. Now, I've already mentioned pretty much everything I'm gonna say again, but I really wanna highlight perimenopause and menopause, okay? Because what's happening? Well, estrogen is decreasing. When estrogen decreases, our muscle mass typically decreases if we're not eating enough protein, if we're not lifting weights, okay? And also bone, right? As estrogen decreases, bone loss is more likely, okay? So creatine can offset some of that, hopefully. Okay, so that's the first thing, okay? I mentioned the brain fog before, okay? So if we're helping generate ATP in the brain, less brain fog, okay? It's gonna help cognition, particularly in perimenopause. Okay, so that's a great opportunity to, consider creatine for things other than, muscle mass in your body. Okay, so obviously, in terms of insulin sensitivity, the more muscle mass, the more insulin sensitive you're going to be. So that is going to be potentially a big deal, particularly as we age and particularly as potentially we're storing more body fat. This is my dog Lily, and she actually, you can actually go ahead and flip the video on over on YouTube if you want to check out the full episode, but she really loves me. She likes to be on my workouts. She likes to be on podcasts now, all the things. We're probably going to have to get her some creatine, I think. This dog is a sturdy dog. That's how I like my girls. She's nice and sturdy. Creatine's next for her. Okay, so she's just making her way settled in here. If you heard her, she says hello. Okay, so moving back to perimenopause, it's really being looked at, pretty extensively now in this area. Now, there's a lot of experts out there recommending creatine combined with, you'll see Mind Body Green just came out with a supplement that is creatine plus taurine, and a lot of the influencers that are actually physicians who I really, really like are promoting it. It was really cool to see that. So I think that that's probably a nice one to try. I don't have an affiliate with that company, but I see a lot of people that I really like, know, and trust. So Mind Body Green, I saw creatine, and they combine it with taurine. And again, taurine's an amino acid. And here's the thing you want to think about. Let's say you didn't want to go that route. And let's say that you are doing creatine and you're hitting your protein goal, taking an essential amino acid supplement, it's not a terrible idea. Potentially could really help. So lysine is the amino acid that we really want to make sure we have an adequate amount of for muscle maintenance and muscle building. Okay, so what I do personally, so I've been doing the creatine HCL, and then during my workouts, I do take the essential amino acid. And that has all of the amino acids, not to be confused with branch chain. So branch chain only has a few of the essential amino acids. If you take an EAA supplement, it has all of them. That's been really helpful for me for recovery. On days that I don't take that, and now remember, I said the creatine definitely is helping with recovery. And I recover fine if I don't take the essential amino acids. But when I do take them, I can work out longer and harder and really not feel anything the next day. Let me give you an example. So I'm on a timeline recording workouts, and I needed to get week 32 done, okay? Because it's a 52-week program. So I needed to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I needed to do 6 10-minute workouts, 1 15-minute workout, and then 1 30-minute workout. Okay, so that's about 2 hours of working out. I was able to get through that entire workout. Okay, I woke up the next day and I was not sore. And that I had the creatine, I had the essential amino acids, I hit my protein goal that day. I'm just saying that if I didn't take those things, I would have been sore. I know that about myself. Okay, so I do think they help. Glutamine is an amino acid that really helps with muscle recovery. So if you get an essential amino acid mixture, it's gonna have it in there. And that's, again, something that, really, really does help. And I've seen it happen. Okay, so with all of this being said, again, as I mentioned, vegetarians might benefit a little bit more just based on the amount of creatine in a typical vegetarian diet. Other things to think about. So a lot of times people will ask me, so do I take creatine every day even if I'm not working out? Yes, you do. Okay, the name of the game with creatine is consistency. Okay, so that's why you don't necessarily need to load, but you have to stay consistent with it. And that's the reality. If you are liking the benefit of creatine, you're gonna have to continue it to get that benefit. Okay, so just remember this, anytime you start something, it's really important to observe how it's impacting your body, because you're gonna at some point have to make a decision on the long-term use of it. And what I am telling you is that it is safe. But I always think about this. I'm like, am I gonna be like 90 and taking creatine? I might actually. I think that this is a supplement that I actually might. And I really, really am so excited to do this episode, because I have to tell you, just with my history of being an overweight kid, adolescent, young adult, and knowing about creatine but never trying it just because I heard that it makes you bigger. Gosh, wow, how far have I come? Now realizing that there are benefits, and I could definitely fall into the old pattern, right? Because that old thinking, I mean, it goes away, but it's stored, okay? And so I'm just really excited that I was able to really have just an open mindset and really go in. And it really started with seeing the results of a client of mine. And I'm not telling you that creatine is the reason, right? But I think it did really, really help. She was doing all the things right. Okay, this just gave her an edge. Okay, so what I've been recommending in my groups, I have been recommending creatine. And I will tell you the body type that I really want to see on creatine, and that's more of the ectomorph body type. Now, here's the deal. I want everybody to consider it because of the bone protection, because of the brain protection. Also, just in general, not feeling good because you're fatigued. Well, creatine helps give you more energy. So the point, right, about body types. So my ectomorph ladies, my naturally thin ladies who already have trouble gaining muscle, that's been a big recommendation I've recently really been sharing with them. And they're listening and they're doing it. And actually, one of my ectomorphs, it's so funny, one of my ectomorphs, she has increased her calories. She has continued her strength training. She has added essential amino acids and creatine, and she has gained muscle. Okay, so here's the deal. Doesn't matter your age, just really kind of following along evidence-based practice to be able to give yourself an advantage to help you really age well. Okay, so I do think that creatine falls in the category of anti-aging and aging well. Okay, so I am a fan. I'm giving it a stamp of approval. Okay, now if you don't take it, totally fine too, right? Again, not medical advice over here. However, for me personally taking it, I am noticing a difference. And so I'm really interested to see what happens over time with it. Okay, so if you're thinking about whether or not creatine is something that you need, remember, you can always try it. Again, it has great safety profile. And so you can always try it, see what happens. What I will say though, if you are thinking about changing your body composition and you have not established adequate nutrition, you have not established strength training, then I would say creatine still could be useful for the cognitive and the bone benefits. Okay. However, you won't maximize what it can do unless you're also doing the other things. Okay, so just keep that in mind. And if you keep that in mind and you set realistic expectations, you can really kind of see in an open-minded way if this can benefit you. All right, my friends, I'm super excited. I'd love to see what you do with this. If you are going to do a little more research, there's a lot of really good content out there that you can find in all the places that you like to search things up. And it's always a pleasure talking with you. Again, would love to support you in some capacity this year. We have our Transform program, 72 CMEs. We also have an advanced strength training program, a beginner strength training program, and we also have a nutrition training program. And so right now we are currently enrolling Transform, and check it out. Link in the show notes. And until next time, we'll talk soon.